Hey, this is Dan with Pain Free You. And today I'm here with Jonathan from New Zealand, of all places, the other part of the world. And he agreed to kind of share his story a little bit. He's had a lot of success with not just this mind-body TMS concept, but also with implementing a lot of the things that I share in my videos and some of the concepts that I share. And so Jonathan was willing to get on here and share his story with some folks on the internet. And I'll be sharing this within my YouTube channel, Facebook channel, and my audience to hopefully help inspire people to say this stuff is real and it works. And I always say in my success stories I post, I'm like, this stuff works, folks. So Jonathan's here to just kind of share what his journey's been like. And so thank you, Jonathan. Welcome. I appreciate you. And
for setting it up.
If you would, let me know kind of a little bit about your journey. You don't have to start when you were a kid. We don't have to get into childhood and all that kind of stuff. But when did you really start running into some problems with some chronic pain? And what was your journey through the medical world and all that kind of like lead me through it? But it can be a higher level view if you don't want to get into all the nitty gritty.
It started in 1976, and what is it, 2021? So, yeah. But before, I was born in 64, so in 76 I was 12, and until then I'd had no TMS symptoms at all that I was aware of.
Right.
And I was really into athletics and rugby, which is sort of like football without helmets.
Yeah.
Really cricket, which is sort of like baseball with a vertical bat, really into tennis, table tennis, and athletics and soccer. So I was a super athlete. That was me at 12. And I don't think this is a time to go into it, but there was issues. And so I think there was I know there was a lot of trauma that was in there for myself and my two siblings. And so I think that laid the groundwork for an overreactive sort of emotional state.
Right.
And so, or laid the groundworks for TMS. But anyway, I wanted to get better at rugby because that was sort of my nature. And at 12, I started doing road work where I'd run for 3 to 5 kilometers.
Right.
I'm on the road in my shoes. And after a month or two, I noticed that my heels were a bit sore. But I kept going because that's what you did. And after 6 months, I realized that each week it was getting worse. And so I thought I'll stop until it gets better. And it never did. And that was the start of TMS.
Sure.
Did a round of doctors. And they were like, oh, growing plates. We don't really know. And so basically this process occurred from 12 to 26, 12 years of age to 26, where a new injury / thing would then get entrenched as a new TMS symptom. So I went to my ankles, into my knees. And then when I was 20, swimming, I was a swimmer, did lane swimming, middle of the back. And again, I thought these were all injuries that were piling up
Sure.
that were physical and just weren't healing. And, nobody told me different. So I just kept trucking along and removing things from my life to carry on. And then at 26, I played squash, which I didn't play, and strained something in my lower back. And at that point, the TMS went into what sort of got called full-blown fibromyalgia, which I'm sure you've heard of, where no longer was it intermittent and, I could affect it by stopping doing things. It was there all the time, very painful, and spread through my whole body, and then started to affect my mind with brain fog, and and chronic fatigue started to kick in about 10 years later. I was 35. At 26, the pain had gone into my arms, or the brain loop, or the TMS. I use slightly different language. So what if I just say the TMS? Is that the best way to do it?
Whatever you want to use, that's fine.
Okay. I watched your interview with Dr. Schrubner. How do you say his name?
Schubner.
He talks about neural loops or something?
Well, he calls about neural pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Neural
I mean,
path.
you can just call it TMS, mind body syndrome.
There we go.
Neural pathways are the mechanism in the brain for how the signals for pain are sent,
Okay.
but overall, the concept is generally known as TMS,
Okay. Yeah. We'll stick
which
with
is
that.
what Dr. Sarno called it.
Yeah. So around the age of 26, I was a high school teacher for 2 years. And I think the stress of being a high school teacher for 2 years in public school, I thought I was doing well. And, people were telling me I was doing well. But then, I hurt my back and then it spread through my whole body, the TMS stuff.
Right.
And at the time, I still thought it was just a physical thing. But I was ready to, most people who go through university in New Zealand then go to England back in the 80s and work for a period of time because we're allowed to, and just travel around Europe. So I did that.
Sure.
But it was at the same time that I had got my full-blown TMS symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
where it was through my whole body. But I didn't have chronic fatigue and I didn't have brain fog yet as any of my symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, those things can come along. So at what point did you finally learn about this Dr. Sarno and TMS, the mind-body concept?
Not for a long time. So this was mid-80s. Then I was in London for 4 years, met a woman, went to San Francisco supposedly to get married and do all that stuff. That didn't work out, but I met someone else and they were irritated by my TMS, as all my relationships, everyone was irritated by my TMS, especially me. And a girlfriend gave me Dr. Sarno's book.
Nice.
And at first I was insulted,
Sure.
which I'm sure is a common reaction.
Yeah, of course.
It's that whole shaming, oh, my pain's not real, da-da-da, you think it's all in my head, da-da-da. But I read it, and this was in 1995, and I did what it said, and it worked, but I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe there wasn't serious tissue damage causing it. And I got tried other things, and I didn't have, it's not like it is now where I could go and watch you on YouTube.
Sure.
I think if you, so if you transpose that 1995 version of me to now and being able to watch your videos, I would have got better.
Yeah, well, the difference is that's also when I was dealing with stuff.
Okay.
And there was no Facebook, no YouTube, no podcasts, no plethora of TMS coaches and experts and therapists. It was a lot less prevalent back then.
Yeah. And it was sort of a fringe theory, I would imagine, back in 95.
Right.
Like you would, I wasn't getting a lot of intelligent people telling me, yeah, this is the way to go back then, whereas you do now.
Sure.
And so it sort of fell off the mat, but I sort of got that there was a lot of mind-body connection involved in what I had. And so I started doing a lot of the things, like I'm a scientist. And so I started meditating and doing Tai Chi, reducing stress. Just noticed then that, and this is part of, transforming myself with the mind-body connection stuff. So when I noticed that I might be starting to overstimulate myself in a way that I know will trigger some of my symptoms, just slow down.
Okay.
All right. So that went on. So I basically fell off that, and I did various other things with some success. But then in 2018, I was teaching, and I got a lung infection, And 2 weeks after the lung infection was, I sort of jokingly called it COVID-18, because I got sort of what might be called long COVID now, which turned out, I think, to be, and I'm sure it is, TMS thing, where after the infection was gone, still felt like my lungs were really sore and I'd lost my voice. So I lost my voice for 2.5 years and couldn't breathe well for over 2.5 years in 2018. So I was in bed for 2.5 years from 2018 to about 6 months ago.
Wow.
And then I started to feel a bit better, and then just started to randomly do things that were helpful. Started taking the dog to the dog park and started playing, like getting in and interacting with the dogs and with the people.
Sure.
And I think that was good for just sort of getting me out of the really entrenched TMS loop that I'd got. And I noticed symptoms were better. And then I used to do ocean swimming every day. So I started going in the ocean. And I do one-to-one tutoring, but because I'd lost my voice, I had to stop that, but I started doing that again. I cut off all contact with human beings who didn't force me to talk to them. Started contacting people again. And then I found out, then in February this year, so that's not that long ago, that's when I got told I did some hill work or something near the dog park. And I went up the hill. It was a bit like the heel thing, where each day it felt a little bit worse. And after 6 days, my Achilles tendons felt like they were seriously damaged.
Sure.
So I went to the physio and I said, "What's up with my Achilles?" And they said, "Oh yeah, they're a little bit messed up, whatever." Gave me some exercises to do. And then she talked to me a bit more and she said, "I want you to watch a video." And it actually wasn't Dr. Sarno's, it was another one. There's a group in Adelaide, the NOE group, that do a mind-body connection thing.
Okay.
And it was 1 hour and 20, but in it included some, because I'd seen this guy about 3 or 4 years ago and he convinced me that it was mental. But he didn't lay out. I think as the sort of person I was, with the scientific training, I needed it really clear. Like, this is what happens in the brain. This is how the neural pathways are produced. And it was so clear and obvious that this was my life. And finally, I couldn't discount it in the way that I did in 1995. And I knew a lot more.
Was that Lorimer Moseley?
It was Lorimer.
Okay. Yeah, he's a great pain scientist, and he's all over the internet. So yeah, it's interesting. He talks about a lot of the same stuff, but he's not quite as optimistic at our ability to get rid of it. He says it takes a long time. So he's brilliant in describing what goes on, but he doesn't seem quite as convinced that it's easy to fix. And that's where I differ, because I've seen a lot of people get great results fairly quickly when they're able to turn down the fear and take the attention away from it. And he thinks it's a much longer process.
The physio told me that she had doubt. I hope she doesn't know. She probably will see this. Sorry. She told me she doubted that I'd be able to get fully well because of my age and because it must be very entrenched, because I'd had it since I was 12.
Yeah.
So I was a bit disappointed by that. And I started watching it anyway. So I just started doing the things, and I came across your videos, and I was like, finally, basically, so you're about to get a wee plug. Do they have that word in America?
Sure. Yeah.
So you're going to get a wee plug, because it's all very well. And as a scientist, again, I mentioned it a few times because it's sort of how I have sort of functioned and navigated my way through this. It's all very well being told, okay, this is what it is and this is what causes it. But what am I going to do?
Right.
The thing I really liked about your videos was very calm. And you just explained it really simply, no judgment, but it was really clear what I needed to do. So I did it. And each month I got a little better, and I started to say to friends, again, don't count your chickens until they're hatched in America?
Yeah.
So I don't want to count my chickens, but I knew this was different. And I'd got quite depressed when I was so sick and couldn't breathe for 2 years. So I'd stopped.
Understandably.
Yeah, it was understandable. And I've been through various other physiological tests at the hospital, gone to emergency rooms. They thought I was dying at various. To be honest, I thought I was dying.
Sure.
But I'd stopped my meditation practice, so I started that back up. I started journaling, and the thing that really changed is at the moment, I'm up to 24 sort of not mantras, but in my journal, like things I come back to when I feel like I'm a bit stuck or when I meditate, and I just look at it. And you're number 21 from May.
All right.
Attitude of Indifference, Dan Buglio.
Yep.
And so I do my interpretation of what people say, and in my meditation, a phrase will come to me where it's like, this really clicks, and this will change something in my brain. And so it's, as there is no tissue damage, energy deficit, or brain deterioration, I can do whatever I want pretty much.
Yeah, and that came from Sarno too. Yeah, I mean,
oh, I know.
He figured that stuff out, decades ago.
Yeah. And so I got Sarno's book again. I reordered it. And I've been reading through it, and it's been great. So every month I seem a little bit better. There was one thing that I noticed, so like where the full blown developed was sort of my lower right back, and that's always been painful when I drive. And so I said and I wanted to drive to visit my family, who are equivalent of driving from San Francisco to Seattle, I guess, but on a really windy road. And that's sort of like the scariest thing for my brain. And my physio, who I got a special pain physio, I got this other to recommend me to someone who agreed there was no physical damage and that it was all in my brain and how it was processing my sensations. She says, you can't hurt yourself, drive to visit your family. And I started driving, and so I was driving along, and it hurt. But instead of going into the fear loop that I would have gone into in the past, and it would have got worse and worse and worse, I went, there is no tissue damage, so I can just keep driving. And I would sort of laugh at it. And I don't know if that's in any of your videos where you sort of laugh at the sensations.
Sure, definitely.
Go, the brain's trying to trick me. And Mosley has this idea that I think you've used as well, where you take away some of the shame that gets embedded, I think, for people with these conditions, where it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you're experiencing pain. There's this, it's interesting, so there's even some emotion there. Because, it can be quite a shameful experience for a lot of people, and it definitely has been for me, and I've had it for so long. And that's been one of the great, releases of this, is that I've just lost all the shame. No shame.
That's great.
Around my health, and around the fact, that I got my physics degree when I was 20, 22, 23, but, in some eyes, I haven't done much with it. Well, I've been, other self-judgment's always the worst, I guess.
Sure.
All right.
So how are you doing now?
Yeah. So now, each month, so I'm not on the couch anymore. Now I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, bounce out of bed, do meditation, watch some videos. It's midwinter, So yeah. So what's a normal day? I've stayed home a bit later, so it's 11 a.m. here.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I'd be out at the dog park. I'm not wanting to go back in to teach full time. I'm 57 now. I don't want to teach full time until I'm confident that that's not going to push me into a flare up.
Right.
But I don't want to lose the gains I've made. So again, I'm not sure.
What's the concern about putting you into a flare up? Is it this stress level of working, or is it the fear you're going to hurt your body? Where does your head go to?
Yeah.
Because if it's a fear that you're going to hurt your body, then a little more convincing to do that TMS is the cause.
Yeah. Because I guess the thing with my body is that even now I've still got chronic pain in my body all the time, every day. But when I first came across this idea and started working with it 4 to 6 months ago, it was my full body.
Yeah.
And it was really bad, and I was having to take narcotics. It's pulled back to my lower right hip, and it's sometimes there, but I still know it's not damaged.
Sure.
And
give me an idea as to where you were and where you are now, like as far as regaining functional movement, activity, your fear levels.
Fear levels of damaging myself are zero. So this was so I'd forgotten. I wanted to tell you and your viewers this, is that as soon as I realized, and when I watched that video, it convinced me there was no tissue damage, that it was brain emotional mediated, I was instantly cured of the fear pathway, which was the most debilitating.
Yeah, and this all lives on fear. This all lives on fear.
Yeah. But my guess is, like all my TMS symptoms just didn't disappear overnight. They're disappearing gradually, but reasonably fast based on what the physio thought they would do.
Sure. Well, but the physio doesn't completely understand all this stuff.
No.
So you know more about TMS in this mind-body process than any of the medical professionals that you've seen.
That's what they say too.
Yeah.
In fact, my doctor is getting me in to talk to they run a teaching medical center, and he's quite keen to have me talk to the final year medical students that come in, because he's been very encouraging. And when I got this realization, I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you something you've probably known for a number of years, but you didn't really want to tell me because you didn't want to alienate me or whatever. But I had the feeling that he knew.
Sure.
And he did. He was very happy for me.
That's great.
Yeah. So I've got a good doctor as well, which always helps.
That's cool. So
I just feel like I'm getting a bit better every month. I'm still swimming in the ocean, even though it's only 50 degrees. I've got a group of 30 people on a WhatsApp group I'm swimming with. I've got 8 students I work with one-to-one to build up their confidence in maths, chemistry, and physics. We pug. She bullies the pit bulls because she's 12 years old and she's got no teeth, but she's got the moves.
Sure.
And I feel like I've got my life back, and I didn't really expect to be honest.
That's awesome. So you got your life back. You still have a little bit of discomfort still.
Yeah.
But your fear level is down. And I will tell you that if you can impact your pain levels from being stuck on the couch to where you are now, you can get completely pain-free.
Yeah, I'm certain.
And so the more you're willing to be indifferent and say, I'm going to do this even if it does hurt.
Yeah. Actually, I noticed that in one of your, I noticed that at the golf. Was it you? Are you the golfer?
No.
Someone was kept golfing. Was it Shrubner?
Well, I did back in my days when I was still in pain. I'm not golfing lately, but
No,
yeah.
but that's mean. But you pushed it. You pushed it, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea." What Dan did there?
But I had to prove it to myself that I wasn't damaged. So even though I had a day where I was stuck on the floor for 14 hours, 9 days later, I went to the golf course and I walked and I carried my golf bag and I played a full round of golf.
Yeah,
And I heard afterwards, but I just needed to kind of prove to myself, my body's okay. This is not a body thing. And so that didn't cure me. That didn't cure me, but it kept me moving on the TMS mind body path. So
I forgot to tell you, I went, my pain physio also said the thing that I was terrified of doing was going back in table tennis, because it has explosive motions that can pull on my lower back. And I used, I was sort of like, what do they call it? An rep team, not varsity, where you play for your state. You represent the state.
Sure.
Anyway, so my teenage and early 20s, like, play a lot, and it's very explosive. I went yesterday, and I played, and it didn't aggravate my TMS because I knew that there was no tissue damage. Right. So I'm going to go there twice. So I'm starting to do those more athletic things. Tennis, again, all these things. I noticed your talk this morning was about things like stretching and yoga. I thought that was interesting. But I think chasing a ball is better because it gets you out of thinking that you're something to fix your body.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is exercise in sports is all good if you're doing it because you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
If you're doing the stretching and the exercise to fix your body because you think your body's the problem that's been causing your pain, then you haven't bought into this TMS concept yet.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be clear about that. And I got a lot of comments. There's probably, 25 comments on YouTube that I still have to take a look at and get back to tonight. But that
was my feeling about it, was that if the people who are still doing a lot of those sorts of activities, I do think they'd be better off doing some sort of ball sport or something where their mind is distracted. So they're using their bodies and getting themselves healthy, but they're not focused on their body in sort of obsessive way that a TMS person can be. Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is don't try to fix your body. There's nothing to fix. Go have some fun. And if you want to play tennis, you want to play table tennis, you want to go swimming, do it because you enjoy those things, not because you're trying to fix your body. And that's why I went to play golf, not to fix my body, but because I enjoyed playing golf. I wanted to get out with my buddies and play.
Yeah. Even with the woods.
Yeah.
But they're so because I've played so much tennis and cricket, I thought I should play golf. But anything other than a 5-iron, anything longer than a 5-iron, I can't almost miss the ball completely.
Well, golf is definitely challenging. You're trying to hit a little ball with a long stick.
Exactly.
It's not exactly an easy sport. And for a while in my 30s and early 40s, I was very obsessive about it, and I practiced a lot, and I got fairly good. Not great, but good. But then I stopped practicing and playing a lot, and I got worse and worse and worse, and eventually got frustrating enough that I said, I'm done, and I went back to fishing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So fishing is a lot less stressful.
Yeah, well, fishing's meditation, I would imagine.
Oh, just being out on the water on the kayak, it's awesome, even if I don't catch anything.
Yeah, well, the swimming's like that in the ocean.
Sure.
I just wear gloves and a hood and boots for the cold.
Yeah, it's very
cool. Just float out there. It's great.
That's awesome. So any thoughts or recommendations to anybody watching along here as to any encouragement you can offer, any suggestions?
And I think, the fact that I've got better very quickly, I think I have a lot of advantages in the sense that, I haven't been working, so I have been able to focus almost full time on changing my brain and doing stuff that is, you know, in line with Sarno's teaching, in line with, you know, a few of the other people who are in this sort of mind-body field. You know, I meditate every day for an hour or two. You know, I'm in the dog park. So just sort of encourage people to know that. And you said something in one of your other videos I watched today. It was the 17th of August. It was how to handle a pain symptom or flare-up.
Sure.
And what I would encourage people to do is to treat it like, you know, like what I'd say to my students. I went through at 3:45 in this one, there was a significant thing you said at 7:20, at 8:35. And I didn't write them all down, but at 10:33, I started writing them down. 10:33, you said, after you get really angry, be angry. But then come back and calm, have gratitude.
Sure.
So what you've given people with your videos is a real holistic program of how to be yourself, and express your emotions. But you can't just stay in anger the whole time either.
Yeah, don't live in them.
Yeah.
Experience them, let them be felt and let them pass, but don't live in them all day long.
Yeah. And the other thing, and this is just one, I just watched it just sort of.
Yeah, I'm not actually looking for specific techniques. I'm just like, in general, like for people who are sitting here watching this going, is this stuff really real? Does it work? You know, I mean, what would you say to somebody who was on the fence and skeptical?
At Mosley's video, because I think he lays out, you know, and what I said to my doctor, should I have figured that, you know, I feel like I'm about to cry. Should I have figured this out earlier?
Well,
and he said, no, probably not, because until recently, the functional magnetic resonance imaging that proves these theories are true didn't exist, and we didn't have the clarity.
And you're not going to hear this from your doctors even today. Most of your doctors won't tell you about this mind-body concept.
No.
Most of them don't understand how pain starts as a result of this mind-body concept, and they don't know how it becomes chronic, and they're not sure how to tell you to get rid of it. Like even Mosley, he's saying it might take 6 months to a year to get rid of it. Well, then how come I'm seeing people get better in weeks or months?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm very optimistic that when you give your brain the right instructions and the right messages of safety, it can quickly go, oh, good. His body's fine. We don't need the pain. And it can create these new neural pathways of not being in pain. And it's not like you've got to fix the old neural pathways that have been well worn for 40 years. You can literally just create new ones around it, just like you can learn something new in a weekend, right? And so
it's really good, because I never quite remember. I don't always remember exactly where I heard it from. It might have been Shrubner. Again, you tell me how to say it. I'm not saying
Schubner,
right.
that's fine.
Schubner. He was saying you've got these old pain pathways, and you don't have to do anything with them. You just have to create some new ones where you feel good and happy and positive, and they won't have pain in them.
Correct. Yeah, and I did a video that says, don't fix the old roads, create new ones, build new ones. And that's exactly what we just talked about. So, yeah, so I think, you know, at least my perspective is this stuff doesn't have to take years or decades. It took me 13 years, but I didn't know what to do. I was back in the 90s. There was no help. There was no videos, YouTube, Facebook, podcasts. None of that stuff existed. So I had Dr. Sarno's book, and it was 200 pages of what's going on and about a page and a half of what to do about it. Talk to your brain, think psychologically, reject the physical, resume physical activity. And it was like, okay, I'm doing all that stuff. Why aren't I better? And you probably have had the same frustrations. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Why did you believe it though? Because that was my problem. I got it about the same time as you, and you believed it. I got evidence that it was correct, and I wouldn't believe it, and that might just be bloody mindedness. Was there something that convinced you that it was real, or that it was the correct take, or the take that was going to get you better?
Well, because I did have some initial results.
Yeah.
But then the pain came back, and then I got better, and then it came back, and I went back and forth a lot. But I was like, I came to the conclusion that if I could get better after the first time, then it wasn't my body. So I had some evidence for myself, but I got more and more frustrated because it kept coming back, and then it would stay longer, and then I couldn't get rid of it, and then it became more persistent and chronic. And so it was a long journey, and I made every mistake in the book, not in his book, but every mistake possible. And, it took me a while to kind of figure out accidentally all the things that I'm recommending. And as I look back and go, yeah, I got here, 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 and here. And so I'll share with you and anybody else watching that this is not complicated. We want to give the brain the right messages that we're actually safe with our physical body, our emotions, and even our thoughts. And when the brain feels safe, these symptoms can fade away. Right. And so if you're going throughout your day and you're having a lot of pain, you can actually stop and go, well, what are the messages that my brain is receiving? Am I worried? Am I panicked? Like, oh God, I want to get out on the bike and I might hurt myself, and I might, like, are you feeding it fearful messages, or are you saying, no, I'm going to be good, and even if it does hurt, I don't care because I know I'm okay? But one is a message of danger, one is a message of safety. And if you give enough messages consistently that you're safe and that even if you hurt, so what? That's indifference. Your brain's going to go, well, he's doing okay. He's not too concerned with it. And so don't worry about neuroplasticity and brain rewiring and all that kind of stuff, because the brain knows how to deal with all that stuff. It knows how to handle all that technical stuff if you give it the right information. And so for me, it's consistent messages of safety. Those 4 words. Am I giving myself messages of safety, or am I saying, well, I don't know if I want to get back to work yet because I might hurt myself. Can I handle the stress? Can I handle the standing in front of a class? Can I handle?
Not really the standing. For me, it was always more that I would get too enthusiastic. Well, even people without TMS, school teachers burn out. I don't know is that TMS? Is burnout TMS? Just regular.
It depends how you define burnout, but
where people just sort of go to, and I find that with teaching is that it's hard for me to give 50%.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. People think I can overdo it, and I'm not allowed to have too much stress in my life. And people say, well, how do I control my emotions so I don't get more TMS? The issue isn't how can I eliminate stress from my life and how can I eliminate emotions from my life so that TMS doesn't take over again. The issue is, how can I teach my brain that stress and emotions are perfectly fine? I still lead a very stressful life. I still lead an emotional life. The key is that my brain hasn't associated stress and emotions to mean we should give them back pain again.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So we don't have to eliminate our stress and our emotions to get better. We just don't, because it's impossible. The only people with no stress or emotions are in the cemetery.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I will encourage you to say,
that's my next step.
I can do more physically, emotionally, mentally.
Graduated idea.
Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with moving into it gently and not overdoing it, because you don't want to have your thought process be the thing that creates all the fear.
Yeah.
Right.
Each month I do more than I did the month before, sort of thing. And I feel better than I did the month before. And I guess I sort of don't want to derail. It's like it's going in the right direction. I don't want to mess it up sort of a little bit.
Right. But evaluate what you're thinking might mess it up. And if it's fear of, well, is the stress going to mess it up? Well, okay, you can handle stress. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've got, a group program. I've got all sorts of individual coaching. I also still have another business that I run with my son.
Yeah.
I got, the desire and the need to publish a video every single day.
Yeah.
Plus I've got family and social and relationship and all sorts of stressors in my life.
Yeah.
My life's not perfect, but I don't have chronic physical pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Okay.
I don't want anybody to get hung up on the fact that I need to have a stress-free life to get better. That's not the message at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
That's
to teach the brain that stress is not dangerous, and that we can do based on how we respond to the pain. If the pain happens, you can say, okay, no big deal. I'm hurting today.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Indifference.
No, that's it.
Calm, reassuring. So this isn't as much of a, share your story. It's almost turning into a little bit of coaching, which is very cool.
Yeah. 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 No, definitely. No, I'm definitely getting some pennies dropped at the moment. That's quite useful.
Anything else you want to share? We've been on about 45 minutes. Try not to make these sessions too long.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think the only thing I would say sort of in relationship to that is I think having a daily practice where you engage with these ideas actively, I think is important for most people to get better. And so not just to think, oh, I feel okay, so I can ignore it at the moment. I do think it's important, even if it's only a 5 or a 10 minute, or even if it's just to watch your video and make a few notes. So how can I implement 1 or 2 things from this today?
So you said one thing earlier that I just want to clarify. You said, well, I can almost do this full time. I don't want people to get the impression that you need to do this full time, because the big message I have is you're not broken. Go live your life. Go have some fun. Do the things you want to do, because this is not a full-time job to recover.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the more time you spend on this, the more you're actually convincing your brain that I've got a problem that needs fixing.
That's true.
But again, one of the things I say often is you're not broken physically, mentally, or emotionally. So there's nothing to fix. It's just a matter of teaching, and you're an educator. So teach your brain that you're actually okay already. And how do we do that? By resuming our focus and attention on living our lives. And if the pain shows up, okay, no big deal. How can you say no big deal? Because it's TMS. Your body's fine. There's no tissue damage. And so the whole thing works together beautifully, that when you take away the fear and you take away the attention from the symptoms and you stop focusing on fixing yourself all day long, your brain gets the message pretty quickly that, wow, look at this. Look at Jonathan. He's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole nervous system and the brain can settle down and the symptoms can fade away. So as you've gotten better, it's because your fear has continued to come down and down and down.
Yeah.
And so hopefully as a result of this conversation continue, just watch when the daily videos are great, because they are little doses of safety messages.
Yeah.
It's like every day, wow, Dan just told me I'm going to be fine. Okay. I believe him because I've listened to this and it's worked for me. And, so consistent messages of safety, the daily videos are perfect for that, because every day you get to hear some guy talking with a calm, soothing voice and smiling and saying, you're going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where if you don't have that calming influence, it's easy to get kind of caught up in our thought processes and worries and fears. So that's kind of what I have to add to it. I totally appreciate you, Jonathan, for coming on, being willing to share your journey. It's incredible that you can go from being completely bedridden, housebound, not doing anything for almost 2 years, and now you're swimming and you're table tennis and regular tennis.
Teaching, like just one-to-one, but
no, but that's great. Like you said earlier, you're getting your life back.
Yeah.
It's just proof that this stuff does work when you can consistently reinforce that message with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not a thing where it's like, well, believe in this mysterious BS. This is accurate information. This is not false hope.
That's right.
This is not believing in fairies and rainbows and unicorns. This is believing in actual science and how things work. Yeah. And when you do, and you send the right messages of safety to the brain can go, oh, we're good. And the entire brain and nervous system can calm down and people can get well as you're doing. So I'm thrilled to hear of your progress. I think you're just going to continue to get better and better and better. And at some point, this stuff is going to be like a distant memory where you're not even going to think about it all day. Because right now you're still in the thick of it where you're like, I got to manage my thoughts. I got to manage my emotions. No, you don't. You just go live your damn life.
Oh, when I'm with other people, it's I was always thinking about my pain when I was with other people before. When I'm with other people now, I never think about my pain.
Right. And as a result, you probably feel way better too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And that's not because you're distracting yourself with other people. That's because you're actually engaged in living your life.
That's
the difference. So when you engage in living your life, your brain goes, look at that. Jonathan's good. He's doing normal stuff. He's with us. This is awesome. And it leaves you alone. The more you can do that living your life thing, and stop figuring out how I can fix myself better and better, the faster it's going to happen.
And that is what has happened. Cool. The more I do, the better I get.
So Jonathan, listen, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your experience and your story and your message of hope, which is awesome. Just a little pitch before we sign off. If anybody's looking for additional help, I do have a online video-based course, which condenses all sorts of information into a one video course. And there's weekly group coaching sessions where I'll talk to 15, 20 people on a Zoom call, answer their questions, do a little bit of one-on-one coaching while the others watch. So you can find information on that at painfreeyou.com. And for anybody who wants a little bit more one-on-one help, great. If not, go find my YouTube videos, go search for Pain Free You channel, and you'll find all of my videos there. So Jonathan, thank you again. I appreciate you. You're a rock star. You're going to just keep getting better and better. And at one point you're going to not even be thinking about this stuff. You're just going to be so focused on the rest of it.
Sorry, I got to show you one thing before you go. Bella, come here.
What's that?
You got to see the pug. This was the creature, the 12-year-old pug that kept me sort of alive probably for those 2 years.
That's awesome. Your constant companion.
Yeah.
That's great. Jonathan, thank you so much. And keep in touch. I'm sure I'll be seeing your comments on YouTube.
I'll put my little comments in.
Beautiful.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.